Hey guys, it's Joe and Justin with VMP's Tuning Tuesday, Season 2, Episode. We're here to answer any questions you guys have about different platforms, things to look out for on setups that you have in your cars. It's kind of anything and everything that we can do within reason for you.
How much horse pressure do we think you'll make?
Exactly. How much cylinder pressure it takes to kill a Gen 2 S550 with stock head bolts.
Oh, Joe.
Oh man.
We haven't found that limit personally.
Yeah.
To last.
It's like the running joke that I have.
Well, what's
so I like to poke fun at it
because the Gen 1 people want to upgrade to the Gen 2. And I mean Gen 2 is better, but if you're going to upgrade, just build the motor. So that's our take on it. Gen 2 is not like the messiah of coyotes.
It's not.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really a messiah aside from illuminators.
Yeah.
Of coyotes. Like they're really durable in stock form, but they're not invincible.
And we got a Gen 3 out there with 1,000 miles, and it's got bore scuffing.
Yep.
There's some type of noise. God knows what noise it is.
Yeah, that, and it's like, hell, I have someone in my DMs right now that has a completely stock F-150 down to the stock tune that had cylinder wall scuffing. Getting the engine replaced under warranty. Had a fancy borescope, heard noise one day, put his borescope in there, and you could physically see the scuffing on the cylinder walls.
Even at stock power levels.
Yep. I don't think he even ever had the truck on E85 or anything, so it's just 93 pump gas.
Because the Gen 3 motor we do have out in the shop was making about 800 to the tire, so.
Mm-hmm.
We have some comments coming in. Not a whole lot of questions yet, but we do have some comments.
Mm-hmm.
Nutty50 says, Happy Tuesday, guys and gals.
Happy Tuesday to you as well.
Chris Bouchard says, woot woot. Trunk Back Jim says, hello all. Poor Boy says, you all know what today is? What day is it, VMP?
Hump day. It's
No,
not hump day.
It's Tuesday.
No, I know, but...
It's
Mike, guess what day it is?
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Oh, man. I see what they did there.
Crank it out, them tunes.
Johnny Mallet says hi.
Hola, Johnny.
Nick Moore says, how much of a difference do the 5.2 heads make on a 5.0 when supercharged?
Huh.
Within the measure of 10-15 horsepower, probably.
Yeah. Now, it's interesting. If you put 5.2 heads in, you have to use different cams. Mm-hmm. So you can never truly measure what the difference is in just the head flow.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of a total package. Don't put the 5.2 heads on unless you have a very, very specific reason to, though.
Mm-hmm.
I think would be.
Yeah, I'd say you'd probably be better served by just having your stock heads ported.
Yeah.
Because then you don't 5.2 heads have a smaller window between bores for head gasket sealing and everything?
The valves are, well, they might a little bit,
mm-hmm.
and the valves are really based on a 3.7 bore. So in a Coyote 3.63 bore, they actually you have valve shrouding. It's really close to the bore, so you get less airflow.
Let's see what else we have going on here. Gap Time says, is 5W50 safe to run in cold climates?
I would say so. What do you think, Joe?
I would defer to manufacturer to see what they call the safe operating limits of that oil.
Yeah, they publish those specifications and temperature ranges and everything. So Ford uses that in the Boss, the Ford GT, the GT500. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I wonder if it's like a recommended oil in like the Track Pack GTs.
I don't know. I haven't looked.
Because they are unique with the radiator, the oil cooler, the suspension.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like mini Bosses, but yeah, I got that question last night via text message from a buddy of mine. Like, we don't...
Technically, the startup weight's still pretty low.
Yeah.
At a 5 weight.
We don't, like... I'm just trying to say, like, yes, you want to put the best possible blood in your engine,
mm-hmm.
but if you don't have a specific reason for, changing the blood,
don't Maybe don't read too far into it.
Exactly. That's like what I'm trying to say.
Justin Forrest says next week.
Next week, Justin, I got
Soon.
you on the calendar so everybody else knows about it.
Sweet. He was messaging me on Gmail or something over the weekend.
Oh,
I sent him a
okay.
reply on Monday.
We finished up the conversation last night, actually.
Nice.
So, yeah, we get rocking and rolling on his GT500.
Nice.
And you know what? The last thing I forgot to put on the calendar, power expectations.
I like power expectations on the calendar.
Yes.
Call me a stickler, but
Like, you sent me an email about that earlier. I'm not sure what's going on with this, so we need more information. Yes, when we go to work on your car, tune your car, we need as much information as possible, but we don't want to know what color your shifter ball is or what springs you have on your car either.
yeah, within reason, guys.
Yeah.
Brett Leminger says I like running jokes.
Hey, Brett.
Sean wants to know, will strut bars that fit Gen 2R fit a Gen 3 or is it too tall?
Great question.
I know that the height at the rotor is a little bit higher on Gen 3 than it is Gen 2R. Do you know what the current gap was with like a GT500 strut brace on Gen 2R versus what it might be with Gen 3? Because I know with Gen 2R it was pretty tight.
Yeah, I think Gen 3 pushes most strut bars to the limit to where you may need like multiple spacers on the strut tower, and then you got to worry about it rubbing the hood and stupid shit like that. So, like, Gen 3 is not much taller, but it's enough to cause problems. It's honestly, it's 5 millimeters, so that's 3/8 of an inch. That's not even quite 3/8.
And I know most of those bars are crowned. So it's
Yeah.
like, is it the height mixed with the width that pushes it out to like a tighter portion of the radius or something?
Yeah, exactly.
Test fit and let us know.
John Hartman says sup from TVS Kenny Bell Coyotes on Facebook group.
Hey,
Hola, John.
Nice that you're watching us live, John.
Yeah, he shows up periodically.
John, I did do that test fitting this morning, and I think an adapter plate is possible. It's going to have to be tapered a little bit on the sides. The height of the throttle body you were talking about versus what I was talking about is the same, though. So it's just a little bit of neck down on the sides, and then you could have that as an option. So we'll make a plate for that.
Mitchell Page says, hey, you guys.
Mitchell,
Oh,
what's going on, man? Haven't heard from Mitchell in a while.
He chimes in every once in a while on here, just, hey, what's up?
I heard he sold his car and he's not going to race anymore, and he's going to take up
Needlepoint?
backgammon or something like that.
Oh, is
Like-
that like
Oh, man.
shuffleboard?
Yeah, shuffleboard. Mitchell, they have shuffleboard in New Smyrna, so you can go like on a shuffleboard like tournament trip or something and play.
You know,
down
we
here.
could probably even put a shuffleboard in for him here.
Yeah, I mean, he'd be good to have around. The professor would be real good to have around. Could have him consult here at VMP.
We still got to do the 330 somewhere on the
3:30,
property.
yeah.
Mitchell says he's ready to set the world on fire. Check your messages.
Great, sounds good. I know you've been talking to Becca today too.
Let's see what else we got here. There's a lot of conversation coming in on both sides. Chad Dowd says, "Hey y'all."
Chad,
Hola.
So Chad's chiming in.
man, I know what it is. It's March. It's the end of March.
Everybody's car is coming back out.
Yeah, they're thinking about racing and going fast, and that's what we're here to support.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and there's a lot of chatter going back and forth. Jay-Z says, hey VMP gang, any gains from Twin 68 to Twin 69?
I haven't tested them A to B, but one might make the assumption that 1 millimeter bigger would stand to make a gain. How much at your current pulley level, I don't know.
It's a tough one. I would do the 68 to the 69 if you wanted the 15 to 17 electronics, or if you needed 18, 19 electronics for an 18, 19 car.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't design that throttle body to be a one-up. We designed it to be kind of like a relatively clean slate replacement for adapter harnesses and to solve a problem on 2018 Mustangs. And we just kind of like, hey, this works great. We should make it for 15, 17, and
Yeah.
all these other platforms too.
And we'll just be kind of milling out the divider between the two blades and making a monoblade as well.
Mm-hmm.
Nutty50 says, when installing new tune from SCTX4 from old tune, what is preferred? Tuning back to stock and retuning, or go right to the new tune from existing?
Right to the new tune.
Yeah.
Bam. That was quick and easy. Johnny said, I want to go nitrous. Current mods, FBO Gen 2, FBO ported 18 manifold, and E85. What can I do safely to run 150 shot?
Change the plugs and buy a nice 150 shot kit from get a wet kit. Make sure that it has a window switch and a controller. Don't really need a bottle heater, but if you're looking to do everything right, get a bottle heater set up that has an automatic shutoff. Yeah, and I think you're talking about Gen 2 full bolt-on. Is it nitrous outlet or nitrous express that makes the little switch panel that goes in a little change pocket thing?
I don't remember which one it is.
One of those guys makes a
feel
nice
like
little
it was-
switch panel that hides in the location of the stock change thing for tolls
I feel
or
like Speed of
knives
Sound
or condoms or
one,
whatever
too.
you needed to put in there.
QG Greer wants to know, how much horsepower can you get out of 47-pound injectors before they are maxed out?
Depends on the application, the brake-specific fuel consumption, the RPM you're going to be running it at, a lot of things. If we want to get into the, if we want to pull out of the minutia of a very broad question and make it more application specific, S550 Gen 2 Coyote with a power adder, we'll call it a Roush blower or our TVS. It's maxed out around 7,000 to 7,200 at about, depending on what fuel you're on, about 700, 680 wheel.
Yeah, and even sometimes lower than that if you have a weak fuel pump. So I'd say that's probably a very, very efficient setup. Like you got good exhaust, you're just making the number.
Yeah, you have some good fuel quality, all that stuff.
We don't want you running smaller than the 82 millimeter pulley. I mean, the Roush doing their phase 2 with an 80 millimeter pulley and a booster is a stretch on 47s.
And that's why they have to keep that limiter at 7.
Yeah, they keep the limiter at 7, and I mean, a lot of times it starts running out of fuel, especially if you're in cap protection around 65.
Justin Young says, hey, VMP team, had a great time at Ponies with you guys.
Hey,
Awesome.
Justin, sorry I haven't had a chance to respond to your text yet. It's been busy.
Eric says, hey, VMP team, my car killed it at a local event we had over the weekend with your Mustang tune,
Great
Nice.
to hear.
which is nice to hear.
Send us some details and some time slips, man.
And get them posted up.
Yep, we can share it on all the social channels. Let's see, what else we have here. Melvin says, Melvin Vega, Team VMP, greetings from Puerto Rico, loving my Gen 2R.
Awesome, good to hear, Melvin.
Zach wants to know, how can I make my base mode V6 lope?
I feel like that's a troll post.
Unplug a couple spark plugs.
Nah, man, don't even worry about that. Disconnect the brakes.
Oh, Joe's.
And by the brakes, I mean the power booster.
Yeah.
Let's see. Poor Boy says, I'm very impressed by your VMP Supercharger. Your torque and horsepower and throttle response is better than some other brands. How does your Supercharger stack up to the Edelbrock Supercharger kit?
I guess I would really need to know what application he's talking about there. They have a few different kits. The older 11 to 14 kits were decent. They weren't great. They used a stock throttle body and a stock cold air, and they were pretty much out of breath by about 55, 6,500, and they'd start losing airflow.
Yeah, I mean,
Beyond
like
that?
530 wheel on a Coyote, maybe 550 wheel.
I've heard a lot of good things about their newer kits. I hope to be doing some testing on some of those here soon, and I'll let you know what the results of those tests are.
Coyote Chris says, I have an 18 automatic with some bolt-ons at 100 miles per hour, 5th gear. The traction control blinks and shifts a little early. Is it a tune issue or what? By the way, it's not a VMP tune.
It's probably not a tune issue per se. If traction control light's blinking, it's probably a traction issue.
You might be spinning a little bit on the shift if the shift is super firm, and
Exactly.
I would recommend not using super firm shifts.
Yeah, I assume, did he say that was in normal mode? Or any
don't
type of
remember.
mode?
I don't, yeah, no.
Because sometimes drag mode, well, not sometimes, drag mode in the 18 up stuff is very, very firm on shifts, and it'll spin in most gears on shift.
Ford wanted to impress somebody.
Yeah, they did a good job. But yeah, it sounds like you just need some more traction, or hit up your tuner and ask them to make the shift a little bit softer.
Jason says, getting ready to install FIC 1000s and 4 stage 4 system and a revised tune from us.
Sweet.
What fuel pressure do I need to set the regulator to before I plug the vacuum reference in or after?
Did he say what type of car it was or
Nope.
anything like that?
Nope.
Whoever you're working with on the tune here, ask them that. It depends on the application. If we're talking 5 liter, most of the time we'll call it a base pressure of 55 psi. If it's the GT500 or lower powered Cobra, we'll call out 40 psi. On some of the higher powered GT500s, higher power Cobra, we'll call it a base pressure of 55.
Matt ED says 14 Penske with fuel system, E85, ID 1300s, long tube oil pump, crank sprocket, let's see here, Gen 2R, ice tank. How much are you willing to make on stock motor 6R80? Just sent Joe the X4 details.
It's kind of, we don't have like a desired horsepower that we set in the tune. There's not like a parameter for that. It's kind of, we put everything where we know it to be safe on the pulley combination, the fuel that you're using, and whatever power it makes is the power that it makes. We don't, you can ask us what type of power do we typically see, but I hate giving people answers about that stuff, because we'll get one car that's like 20 horsepower over everything that we've ever seen, and it's like, I don't want to unrealistically set expectations.
Like, we love making horsepower and going fast, but like everything's a trade-off. If we put your tune on kill, it may only make that horsepower number and run that time once. And there's a lot of tuners that do that stuff. On the flip side, like if you've got a car that makes 700-800 rear wheel, what's 20 less on one day?
Yeah, and all along the same lines, if you're looking for the most power possible and you're on a stock engine and you're partying on E85, like that's the point at which you should be at least thinking about doing rods and pistons at one point or another. We can set the tune up to be conservative to where we know it should live a long life at that level, but at the same time, you're in a situation of where you have your cake and you want to eat it too type of thing. Where, yo, can you give me like 20 more horsepower? And it's like, I can give you 20 more horsepower, but we're at that point already where it's like, probably think about rods and pistons before either you pop a head gasket or you kill a second ringland.
Nathan Hunt said, talk to Joe about my 17 with Gen 2R. Has issues with loss of compression on number 6 cylinder. He's going to fix and sell the car to go with a 2019 A10.
Ooh.
He says, what are my options to get into low 11s, high 10s?
Low 11s, high 10s, E85 tune.
Let's throw everything at it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do it in A.
You can.
It's a lot to throw everything, though.
Yeah,
But we'll support you.
long tubes, cold air, E85.
We can look at a Cobra Jet intake manifold or a ported 18 intake manifold, twin 69. I mean, we just need to decide if you want to make that commitment to the CJ to like be an NA, or if you just want to go
With
quick.
the 18 manifold.
Yeah.
So Coyote Chris just dropped us $5 on Instagram Super Chat. I mean, not Instagram, on YouTube Super Chat. Because he wants us to DM a date on when the 2018 VMP Supercharger is going to drop.
Oh man, we've been bribed.
Oh man.
Gosh.
Yeah, he's trying to bribe us.
Oh, I can tell you that we're working on it almost every day. A team of people is working on it.
I can tell you we're probably not going to surprise you guys with it. I feel like that's one of those things where once we have a date, we will tell you guys. But
Yeah.
until the point in which we have a date, we don't want to tell you, oh, it's going to be a month, and then it's 3 months. or
Yeah.
a month and then it's a month and 2 weeks and you freak out.
And like we're in a really unique position. We have an opportunity to look at everything else that is out there and design what we believe is the best kit and what we will prove makes the most horsepower. So it's not going to be rushed to market. It's going to produce the best end results.
Chris says since you won't DM him the date, you can use it for Taco Tuesday.
I was going to say if we won't DM him the date, we can use it for like merch if he wants to do like a hat or a t-shirt. We can collect a little bit more and get you into a shirt or a hat or something.
A little bit more.
Yeah. He's doing a layaway program.
Layaway. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
the next episode he's going to throw another $10 at us.
Okay,
you know.
cool.
It makes me think of Kmart back in the day when Kmart used to have layaway programs.
It gets you right in the heart, doesn't it?
I don't even
Blue
know.
light special.
I don't even know if Kmart's around anymore.
They are.
Are they?
Yeah.
I thought they had closed down.
They're in other states. I don't think they're in Florida anymore, but I've seen them in other states when we travel.
Nastang87 says Ford tested the GT350 in their cold stress test with 5W50. He was the one talking about the 5W50.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Scott says, what are my upgrades necessary to achieve my goal of 700 to the wheel? I just installed a Roush Phase 2 on a 17 S550 manual with Roush Tune. I want to pulley down with our tune.
Okay. So he wants 700 wheel.
He wants 700 to the wheel, so what upgrades are necessary?
If you just installed the Roush Phase 2, 47-pound injectors are going to be maxed out at 7,000 to 7,200 RPM. You can do a set of our 56s, a twin jet 67, a cold air, whether that's PMOS or JLTs, up to you. A set of long tubes, 93 and boost-ane is usually a good recipe for 700 wheel on a otherwise stock Roush car.
And you drive the car a lot in the summer, throw our heat exchanger on it at some point too. And hate to say, I told you so, but this is why we make a VMP kit.
Comes with most of the stuff I just listed there.
Yeah.
Nutty50 says, and a very special thanks to Michelle and Joe for reviewing my data log and sending an update so fast.
Awesome.
Love the VMP service quality and drivability.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Nutty. That's what it's all about, getting customers taken care of.
Can the wrong oil weight mess up the VCT?
Yes, it can. I wouldn't say mess it up so much as it just won't work properly.
Affect
Like
the
I've seen-
performance.
I've
Yeah.
seen higher horsepower cars with oil that's too thin, not phase VCT at watt properly.
VCT theoretically likes heavier oil. Theoretically.
John Hanlon wants to know, he's getting ready to order a throttle body and tuner for a 13 F-150 Roush SC50. Wants to know who to talk to make sure I get everything I need.
Basically, anyone in the sales support department can help you make sure you get everything you need for a combination like that. If you have any questions, or if they have any questions beyond that, they'll talk to Justin or I or Mike or someone in the tuning office.
Yeah. Or Michelle.
That
Or
would be,
Matt, eventually.
Sales at VMPPerformance.com, or you can call us at 321-206-9369.
And depending on whether that Roush is a phase 1 or a phase 2 F-150, I don't know. I was going to say he could pulley down, but I'm not real crazy about pulling down on the 11 to 14 F-150s.
Yeah, like the phase 1 would be a 79, phase 2 would be a 75 on those, right?
I think 80 and 75, yeah.
Okay,
So
yeah.
they're already pulleyed down.
Yeah.
So let's get you tuned right. Let's get your airflow up with the throttle body, and that's pretty much it. Those 11 to 14 5.0s, they do not like booster timing. I think you've had the same experience as of late. 15 up loves boost, loves fucking timing. It's a more efficient engine. It has better cams.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's the cams in the F-150. But it's 158, and you know what that time is. It's time for people to like, share, and subscribe.
You caught me off guard there, Joe.
We got stuff we got to do. Like, share, and subscribe, guys. We love being able to answer your guys' questions, but we got to see it grow if we're going to keep investing the time into it. So.
Get us out there.
Yeah.
Get us out there.
Jonathan Whitaker's chiming in.
Hey, Jonathan.
Awesome.
He says, good afternoon, everyone. Excited to see y'all on Thursday for my new blower.
Awesome. Doing race car stuff now.
Race car stuff, yeah. I got to bring the trailer over. He's interested in the trailer too, so
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Dang old enclose.
Sam Del Don, Del Donnie. I have an 18 F-150 and purchased an 18 GT intake and GT 350 throttle body. What do I need to install and make it run right?
If you did an 18 GT intake and a GT 350 throttle body, you'll need an adapter plate and the... You said he had an 18 F-150?
Yep.
The GT 350 throttle body won't work on that truck. That and on top of that, there'd really be no power gain by installing it. So I'd recommend returning or reselling that GT 350 throttle body and just run the stock 18 F-150 throttle body with the 18 Mustang intake manifold. In terms of other parts you'll need, you don't really need anything else.
Okay. What power level are beadlock wheels needed for the strip?
I don't know if there's a real power level. I'd say 60 foot's like 1.3 and below. You could argue that you need them, but if you're fine with the tires rotating on the wheels and possibly losing a little bit of ump from that, then you don't really need them.
Even really down into like the 1.1s. I mean, honestly, yeah, 1.33s, but most people with 1.3 still don't launch that hard. It's, I don't know, it's like a big like fashion trend. Get beadlocks look cool at the strip.
Yeah.
So, like Joe said, I mean, you can stop the rotation a little bit, but yeah, it's just and what's worse is that people do them just on the outside. Like, do you ever want your tire being a contortionist on the rim?
Well, not only that, but like I think the bigger problem is a lot of guys will get beadlocks and go out there and try and run them on the street.
Oh.
And it's like, can you do it? Yeah. Should you be doing it? No. If you're going to run a tire on the street, try and run something that has standard beads on both sides.
So an 11 GT500 with full bolt-ons, put down, it's got a VMP, I am guessing a Gen 2R with a 2.4 pulley, 1050 injectors. It put down 720 on the wheel on 93. Does that seem high to you?
Depends on how happy the car was, who's tuning it, how much timing they're throwing at it on 93. Are they ignoring the knock sensors? Are they not ignoring the knock sensors?
Correction factors.
Yeah.
You get, like, once you get above 3,000 feet above sea level, the correction factor adds horsepower at a higher rate than it should. The SAE correction factor.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you get people that are up at 5,000, 6,000 feet, their dyno numbers are inflated like 100 rear wheel horsepower. Like 10%. It's pretty insane, but...
And he said it was a perfect day.
Perfect day.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you get those, you know, if it took 18, 19 degrees, then it's definitely an outlier.
Yeah, and I'd say that try not to get caught up in the minutia of how much power your car made on the dyno. The dyno is a tuning tool, not an indicator of trap speed. Your best bet to see what type of power the car is making is to know the weight and see what it traps at the track. As long as you can drive pretty decent.
Jason says, if I want to get rid of my cats, my old tuner already tuned out the CEL because I used to run no cats with the CELs. He's like, wants to know, will the CEL stay off after tuning with you guys? Also, I think I hit my speed limiter the other day, or who knows. Is there a way I can check if I still have a speed limiter on, or can you guys turn it off?
A speed limiter cannot per se be switched off. There's no value where you can say ignore value. It's you set the value to something that you don't anticipate the car to ever be able to achieve, or as high as the value can go numerically in the file. All along the same lines, if you get a tune from us and you do not have catalytic converters, there is a relatively high possibility that you will get a check engine light for catalyst efficiency. We do not defeat check engine lights for catalyst efficiency or any type of emissions components. So along those lines, you'll probably get a check engine light if you don't have cats. And in reference to speed limiters and stuff, basically as high as you can raise it in an S550 is 186. Stock in a Mustang is like 150, 155. So if you hit a speed limiter around there, that just means that your tuner didn't raise it to the 186. But other than that, I think that covers your questions.
Ray Shaw says, hey guys.
Hey, Ray.
Hola, Ray.
Todd Warren says, keep up the great work.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you, Todd.
Chad says, how dare you, Joe?
How dare I what?
I'm not quite sure, but that's what
How
Chad
dare
Dowd
I?
says. Chad Dowd says, how dare you, Joe? I think because you play the, what time is it?
Oh, yeah, the
Yes.
The
Time to
like, share, subscribe. That or the beadlocks on the street. Something
Chris
like that.
says he got some intake-only cams from L&M
Mm-hmm.
on his Gen 3 Coyote.
Mm-hmm.
He says, not 1 inch. He says he's impressed with them so far. Have you guys played with the tuning on them yet?
I have not played with Gen 3 Coyote L&M intake only cams.
Sounds like a loaded question because L&M told me last week they weren't out yet.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, is it the exhaust cam or intake cam that's a 3-valve style phaser?
I think it's the exhaust cam.
Okay.
How's the R&D on the red match for the 15 to 17s? How does the 19s even know what gear you're going to?
They don't know what gear you're going to. They look at either XL or decel rate to tell that you're either going to go for an upshift or a downshift. But 15, 17 stuff, we're working on 11 to 14 flex fuel and another thing at the moment. We haven't moved on to 15, 17 rev match yet.
Chad Dowd came back and said, beadlocks on street, I'm offended in my safe zone currently.
Oh, Chad.
Oh, bother.
Snow Cone says, a couple weeks ago you guys told me that my 07 GT500 would make 680 to the wheels. You were almost dead on, 686 to the wheel on 92.
Nice.
716 with boosting. Love my Gen 2R.
Nice.
Great to hear.
Happy to hear, sir.
Awesome.
Good afternoon, Joe and Justin. Do you have to use the adapter plate with your Gen 3 Supercharger on a 69mm throttle body? It's a 14 GT500. And what's the power difference between the 69 and a 67?
Great question. You will have to use the adapter plate because the 69 is a stock bolt pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Keep in mind the 69 we make is for 15 up.
Mm-hmm. I think we were showing the other one.
The 69 for 07 to 14. Those will be here probably like in another 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah,
But
so just keep in mind you can't order one on the website today. If you order one on the website today, it's going to be the wrong one.
yeah.
So don't do that. But power numbers are going to be similar between the two, a little bit of advantage to the 69.
Dirty D says, hey y'all, been a while since I've tuned in live, but I always watch the reruns.
Awesome, glad to hear,
Good to
sir.
hear.
Excellent.
Catch us on that DVR.
Justin Young responded to your text message comment. He says he's high maintenance. Don't mind him.
Oh,
I
Justin.
read your text messages a second ago.
Garrett says, what's the highest wheel horsepower a GT500 with a Gen 2R on 93 has laid down? Do you know?
There have been some numbers of like 800 on E85, upper and lower pulley.
I haven't really paid attention to the numbers on 93. I'm not like keeping
Yeah.
record of those because I'm of the opinion that if you want to make the most power, you go to a high octane fuel. You don't limit yourself with pump fuel.
Yeah.
I know that's like a bragging point for some people in some circles of, oh, it's a 500 horsepower pump gas motor. And it's like, all right, well, there's Octane Booster that works really well, and there's race gas that's like $5, $6 a gallon, and sky's the limit at that point. So
As tuners, we don't want your engine operating under trace detonation at wide open throttle on 93. So
yeah.
it's, but, so the question was about pump gas Gen 2R on
Yeah.
GT500.
I've seen very high numbers. Are we doing cams, no cams, stock engine, or stock engine, built engine?
Yeah.
Like I've seen cam cars just on pump gas make really good power, but
Cams add 50 to 80 rear wheel.
yeah,
And that addition scales with boost, but, you know, yeah, so you could have 750 cammed out GT500 Gen 2R on stock motor, but
Speaking of which, what did you do with yours back in the day?
so my car was always on gasoline. I mean, I had some cars that managed to dyno like 725 to 750.
And those were pre-Gen 2R days, correct?
Yeah, those were like Gen 1s. Those were Gen 1s on like, the 93 was better 10 years ago, honestly, and I could shove in, like 18, 19 was my standard. Like now we're anywhere from 15 to 17 degrees.
Yep.
So, yeah, that was kind of the deal back then. But
So around 750, 720s is the highest you've really seen with cams on the older blowers, maybe a little bit more with Gen 2R on pump gas.
yeah,
type thing.
that was stretched, like I said.
You were talking about Boostane. So Joe B came back and said where to buy Boostane. You can actually buy it from us.
We sell it,
We got it in
sell
stock.
We have it available. You can get it on our website.
regular boosting and professional.
And I know there's a lot of people that detest octane boosters, and I can tell you for a long time I did too. And that was basically prior to me working here. And mainly because I hadn't tried stuff like Torco or Boostane. It was the off-the-shelf stuff you get at like AutoZone. And I can tell you that stuff, by and large, doesn't work.
Yeah.
I know that some AutoZones are now stocking VP Octanium
Yeah.
and Madditive and stuff like that, and those work. Lucas has an octane additive that works decent, but when you get into the realm of the Torcos and Boostanes of the world, they do work.
It worked really, really well. We're not afraid to push those. So, yeah, Octane Booster is no longer snake oil. Actually, go ahead, Gary.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say I saw a car at the car show this weekend that had a compartment for storing bottles of Boostane or Torco under the back seat.
I'm going to start a list of believers in Boostane and Torco, because like we've had many, even like customers that come here for dyno tunes that like don't believe that stuff works, and it's like, all right, we'll put half a can in, I'll make no changes, and we'll see what your knock sensors do.
Yeah.
Brandon says he's in the process of following your advice given to him at Ponies in the Smokies for his FBO-NA 3-valve. He says you guys are great and can't wait to see what she does when he's done.
Great.
Did
Well,
you recommend you coyote swap it?
I probably did at some point. And I think he actually told me that he had a friend that swapped a Coyote into a 3-valve, and I'm like, that is so smart. I don't know why more people don't do that.
Yep.
Now, it could have also been the 3-valve that had ignition problems and needs.
MSD coils.
Yeah. It was so bad. I felt bad for the guy because he did not get a good dyno pull.
That
So
sucks.
I'm now getting messages that are coming in that says I believe. And I believe hashtag Boostane.
Oh, man.
And then
We're going to have to watch Space Jam after this.
And then Snow Cone says he gained 30 horsepower from it.
See, it's real, guys. This isn't made up witchcraft, black magic stuff.
Especially like if your 93 is like 91, because sometimes you get crappy 93, winter blend 93, like you're that much worse off, so you'll be that much better off.
I will say that if you have a car that does not come equipped with knock sensors and you are not making a tune change for additive or a different fuel, no gain. It'll be a wash. But when we're talking about cars with knock sensors that have the ability to add at wide open throttle, then doing an A to B, no octane booster versus octane booster, as long as you don't have false knock, you'll typically see a pretty good gain.
Now, and that's like the science behind it, because like when I first got into cars when I was 16, and I like wondered about all this stuff, and there's all this lore on the internet about race fuel burning slower and this and that. I see it's all bullshit. This-
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
For I think from like a chemical standpoint and a scientific standpoint, it's relative. And I think that from an application standpoint, when you forget the math behind it and you actually go out there and do it, you'll see that most of that stuff, the numbers don't translate to what actually happens on a car.
Yeah, so yeah, maybe C16 burns a little bit slower because of whatever reactions occur, but I always put it in cars and I didn't tune for it, and I saw the same horsepower, no more, no less. And where I'm going with this is the only magic that lies in fuels without tuning is if you run an oxygenated fuel on a car that's not tuned for it, you will lean it out, which we know makes more horsepower, and you will add oxygen to the combustion process, which we know makes more horsepower. But otherwise, all these additives and stuff like that, they're not oxygenates. So they must have a NOx sensor or a tune change to take advantage of the higher available octane. However, there will be no loss, which goes into my final pet peeve. I know we brought this up on the show before. If you're going to run an additive, just let us make you a different tune for it, because don't I'm going to pour in a bottle or two of Boostane on my 93 tune just for safety. No, you're wasting Boostane at that point, and we can get you better performance if you just let us.
And if you did if you're doing it in more moderation, I'd say that's where it would make sense, like a quarter can to a half a can to bump the octane up.
Yeah, if you want to spike your 93 with a shot of Boostane, go ahead. We won't make a tune change for it. We'll make sure it's truly 93. But if you're going to put any amount in there, like Joe said,
If you're going full can, we'll make a tune update
Yeah.
for you.
We have about 15 minutes left.
Okay.
I have a whole bunch of stuff to try to get through.
They can watch next week and
boom,
ask
boom,
again.
boom, boom,
AKDNB actually has a good question since we're talking about Boostane. He says, how do you guys suggest adding Boostane? Do you add to half a tank and fill up? Do you add it to a full tank? Is there any rhyme or reason to it?
I would say that if you're dealing with either baffled tank or a divided tank like you have on S197 Mustang and newer, that I would put the Boostane in before you fill up, and then allow the fuel to kind of like mix everything as it transfers over to the other side of the tank. I think that putting it in as a last step is kind of
weird, because you run out of space in the tank, and it does really not conducive to it mixing.
I'd say that for don't let that stop you from adding it, but I'm saying ideal situation, add it before you fill up.
And if you're on the dyno, add it a run before you need it, so it mixes in on the run that you need it. We dealt with that at Ponies in the Smokies. I actually covered it in the video. I said, hey, by the way, we normally give it a couple miles to mix in. We're going to substitute that because we were on the dyno.
And I make it a point that when we're on the dyno and I have a customer standing there in front of me and I'm like, hey, do you want to use Boostane? And they agree. I try to give them the guidelines of all right, if you're going to run this and we have two separate tunes, don't leave the gas station doing a rolling burnout on the Boostane tune expecting everything to be okay. I need you to make sure that you have the Boostane mixed in if the tank you were using previous was just a standard pump fuel. And we'll go over that stuff in like a video or something so you all can hear it all in one little thing.
Big Daddy Trucker says, what's up, Team VMP? Saw my video. Thanks, Joe and crew.
No problem, man.
Let's see here. DJ Hamby says, what's up, guys? Need to have a sale on a Gen 3 head units.
Oh, man. Everybody needs Gen 3.
I know. AMT, are there any superchargers for the 05 to 09 3-valve Mustangs from you guys? My engine has built internal stroke to 300 CI.
Oh, man. Race car.
Roush kit. We got smaller pulleys.
It's a R2300 kit, and if you want to upgrade from there, pick up one of our GT500 blowers. We know what needs to be changed on the blower itself to get it to work on a R2300 car. And then there's differences between the single belt versus dual belt R2300 blowers and stuff like that.
And they stopped making dual belt too.
Yep, they're all single belt 6-rib stuff now.
Dirty D says, where does the dash AF reference come from and how accurate is it? Does it get it from the same O2 reference when I data log, and does E85 change accuracy if reading in dash?
So there's a lot of minutia going on in the background of that, because I've seen data logs where people have logged all 8 measured AFR conversions for different stoic points, and none of them match up to what the customer sees in the dash. So
really,
all along those same lines, I don't know where exactly it's pulled from. I haven't looked at would that be the hex address coming from the IPC cluster to see where it's pulling from?
And I had a car on the dyno, it registered air fuels like less than 10, which I didn't think they did that.
You can set min-max set points in the tune file,
and
so
that'll
that
change the dash display.
It'll change how low the dash display can read and stuff like that. But that's not available on all strategies, so don't message me asking me to do that. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters to me is measured lambda on a data log. I don't care what your cluster says. I don't care what the calculation of measured AFR is. At the end of the day, lambda is what matters, and lambda can only be read via the OBD2 port in a data log.
There you have it.
Just go off of that. Don't worry about that dash AFR stuff.
14 manual with cat deletes and a 79 millimeter pulley on our current Gen 2R Stage 2 kit. On your current Gen 2R Stage 2 kit, be reasonable, or would it need some other options? Not sure what he's asking.
Combo sounds good. Should make some good power.
Rob and Missy says, tuning question, 07 GT500, 6R80 swap using US Shift Quick 6. Have you tuned a GT500 with a Quick 6?
Played with two. One is a 12, and then I think one is like an 11. I'm still waiting on logs from one of the guys, but the other guys, it's running pretty good.
Yeah, for the most part, you know, it's not too much different for us. There might be some little nuances in idle control or something. Just let us know what it's doing, because normally there's a reference to a car in neutral, car in drive, and it adds air to account for the extra load of the torque converter. There's not that with that setup, but the computer's learning capability is generally enough to compensate for it.
Nathan came back and he's rewording his question earlier. He said boosted or NA for the 2019 A10, which is easier to go low 11s, high 10s.
I think it's going to be easier to do it boosted. I just think it's going to cost you a pretty good chunk of change to pick up any of the kits. I don't know what the Roush kit's going for. I know the Whipple kit's pretty expensive.
Yeah, they're all in that
Edelbrock is pretty expensive.
$8,000 range.
Yeah, and on good fuel, I think the blower kits are certainly going to have an advantage over to what you're going to have to do to do kind of like what the Steeda car has done and what a couple other of the fast A10 cars have done, naturally aspirated.
Those cars are light. They've got torque converters, gears. I mean, just the whole bucket list of mods. So, I mean, to do a Cobra Jet swap the proper way is $2-3 grand.
You know what's one thing I haven't seen a whole lot of talk about? I think we're kind of in that lull before the big storm. The new GT500. Like, people were talking about it, grilling it, hating on the DCT, and now it's like crickets about it.
Yeah.
Jeff Freeman has a 14 Coyote with the VMP fuel rails. He's going to install a 4 fuel system. Does he need to replace the fuel rails? It's on a Gen 2 Stage 3.
No, you don't need to replace the fuel rails.
The only thing, and you know, we do this on purpose, is I do not put any pressure ports on our fuel rails, because you can put your gauge on your regulator. You
can put it in the adapter for the line, all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it was better for our customers to just not have to worry about plugging an 1/8 inch MPT port. But otherwise, their number 8 O-ring, they work with all common number 8 fittings.
Beards and Cars says, is it possible to miss something in the tune while tuning that has to do with IATs that make them show 140s, but car actually still runs hard and produces boost like normal?
I wouldn't say that sounds like anything was necessarily missed in the tune. 140 IATs aren't something that we consider obscenely high, so a lot of the times you won't even pull timing until, like, depending on the how the cal's set up. Some will pull it at like 126, 120s. Some we won't pull to like 150s, but it all depends on the cal.
You're not pulling a lot at that point.
No, exactly. You're not pulling 10 degrees at 140 degrees downstream. So I guess short answer is it doesn't sound like anything was missed in your tune. It just sounds like your intake air temps aren't high enough to actually have a drastically negative effect on performance.
Coyote Kelly says, my dealership recently put 8 quarts of oil in my 18 GT. Unfortunately, when I left, I went and did some 7,500 RPM shifts because I was waiting on my break-in period. I'm highly upset. I'm sure that was not great for my car.
Usually when you have a problem with an engine, it happens when you have the problem. It's not something that, because you did something at X amount of miles and it didn't have an issue then, doesn't mean that it's going to have an issue 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 miles down the road because of that specific event.
And what are the 18s, 9 or 10 quarts?
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't do oil changes.
8 quarts is a lot. Is a lot of oil to have in an engine. Your pickup's still going to be covered. A couple watt shifts. Like now, maybe if you were going watt up a hill
Or on a bank corner.
on a corner. Because like I heard some data that a Coyote at the top of the quarter mile on a high horsepower Coyote has like 2 quarts in the oil pan because it all fills up in the valve covers. But that's another story. But
Windage, PCV pressure, everything will
Yeah.
get up. Good times.
Yeah, normally 10 quarts.
Hot damn.
Steve says he's got a stock block 04 Cobra with a Gen 1 VMP blower and a 2.6 upper and stock blower and then full bolt-ons. He's wanting to make 700 plus to the wheel on pump gas safely as a daily driver. Will the Gen 3 get him there?
The Gen 3 has the potential to make 700 horsepower without much trouble. Whether or not you're specifically going to get there depends on a few factors. What you're using to measure the power, what fuel you're on when you're on the dyno, conditions when you're on the dyno. Gen 3 makes power at the end of the day. If you want to make 700, that's very possible with Gen 3.
Jason says he's got a 2012 Gen 2 with a Gen 2R. You will have E85 and long tubes. Recommendation for best reliability to power ratio, 75 millimeter or 72 millimeter. Thoughts on going down to a 69.
You said he had a 12 Gen 2 Coyote,
He's got a 12 Gen 2 with a Gen 2R.
and he's going to E85.
He's going to E85 and long tubes.
I mean, a lot of people do stupid stuff with Gen 2 Coyotes. The conservative is like a 75 or 79.
I like to consider the, yeah, I mean,
It'll probably live with a 72 or a 69, but it's not going to live forever because there's still stock pistons and stock rods. They're just better.
yeah.
And just, full transparency, you can put a 69 on and send it. It'll probably send for a while. But no guarantees in life.
Michelle wants to know what's the proper AFR
Michelle.
for a supercharged Gen 1 Coyote?
Under what condition? Wide open throttle, part throttle, cruise, decel. Are you looking at the cluster? Are you looking at measured lambda on the data log?
Air fuel's a terrible number for tuners. We all want to know lambda. At the
That
end of the
and
day.
there's not like one value that's good for all conditions and every setup. Like if we're talking a power adder Coyote car and you're looking at your cluster, I don't want you hyperventilating because it's 14.08 to 1 at idle when I tell you it should be like 11.5 at wide open throttle. You can run cars at 85 lambda, you can run them at 82, you can run them at 81, 79, 76. Cab protection will bring them all the way down to like 70 on some cars. Short answer is there's not one answer to your question. At wide open throttle, I'd say for most blower cars, you want to see under 12.2 to 1 at watt. But that's if we're just making general statements.
We have about 3 minutes left. So
Sweet.
I'm going to try and get through as many as I can. Slabshack says, asking for a friend. Is there any power to be had out of a 3-valve Roush charged with cams? He wanted Pro Charge, but he haven't pulleyed down or tried E85. He hasn't pulleyed down.
If it's an otherwise stock Roush kit, there's a little bit of meat on the bones there, especially if it's still in the Roush tune.
If it's a 2.3 liter too, like you by no means have a bad blower. If it's an M90, you got a pretty small blower.
Yeah, I'd say if you have an M90, have him look into our 1.9 TVS upgrade. If he has a 2300 blower, there's a decent amount of headroom on that blower like Justin alluded to.
Yeah.
Just need the octane in the engine to support the ceiling that blower can go to.
And for both those blowers, we make the pulleys, we make the 1.9 upgrade, we
have throttle body upgrades for them.
elbow upgrades. I mean,
We got a lot of stuff. It just depends on how much cash he has, how much he wants to party on, what fuel he has, and I mean whether or not he wants to do built short block down the road.
I mean, a Roush 2300 can make 600 wheel. The engine can't, but the blower can.
Yeah.
Do you anticipate a different intake style for the 2020 GT?
I think Ford's carrying all that stuff over. I think that car is going to be with us for another year or two. You know, despite Ford's supposed to be freshening stuff up at like every 2 years. It's hard to keep up with,
Yeah.
even for Ford.
Joe B wants to know, were we supposed to come out with a 167 millimeter throttle body that was streetable? He said, I want to go larger and would rather stay with our product than going elsewhere. Car's a daily driver.
I don't think a 167 was ever in the plans.
Yeah, the 160, we have some version 2 160s that can be streetable on certain combinations. We would recommend them.
Mhm.
But like I just had somebody tell me last night, Lund won't tune my KB 168 on my car at fail-safes, and there's no solution to it. It's like, that's what happens when you put too big of a throttle body.
Yeah, in some cars it just doesn't work, especially cars that are, at least in our experience, high vacuum at idle.
Yeah. So we're looking at our throttle body line now, everything we do from what can 99% of the world tune successfully and use successfully and then tune successfully as well.
Exactly.
Derek Sizemore wants to know, are the 10R80s in the F-150s different than the Mustang? I've heard they have an extra clutch plate or something in that regard. Does that make them stronger?
So it would only be an extra clutch plate for one gear probably, if that is even true. I don't know a whole lot about that. Do you, Joe?
I don't know about the specific differences from a hardware standpoint between 10R80 truck and 10R80 Mustang, besides
Yeah.
that like four-wheel drive truck would have a bolt plate or bolt-on flange for a transfer case. I don't know about internal differences between F-150 and Mustang though.
Right.
Snow Cones
Mm-hmm.
says that I have the stock lower harmonic balancer on my 07 GT500.
Get it off there.
Do I need to worry about replacing it if I have the Gen 2R?
Get that boat anchor off of there. It's
Yeah.
too heavy.
I wouldn't say that it's like a ticking time bomb because that lowers on there, but I'd say it's a bunch of unnecessary weight on the end of your crankshaft.
You either want to get a stock one or just go ahead and jump up to an ATI, and if you're going to do an ATI, do like a 10% over.
Mm-hmm. As long as you have the octane to support it. But
Yeah.
you could always go up in pulley size on the upper pulley if you need to bring boost down.
Every 5% on the lower is equivalent to one pulley size on the upper.
He said he tried to order one from us, was discontinued.
Yeah, I probably just had to get you an ATI. I mean, it's more money, but
It's money well spent with a good
Yeah.
aftermarket balancer with an SFI rating and stuff like
yeah,
that.
exactly.
We are at 2:31.
So I'm just going to
Think
spend
we'll-
from now on.
Joe, come back, Joe.
Oh, man. Well, it was fun talking to you guys. If you have more questions, stuff we didn't cover, stuff we didn't get to, then just tune in next week.
Before we tune out,
Mm-hmm.
let's mention Carlisle.
We are booking, yes, Shelby Fest
And Carlisle.
And
and
Carlisle.
Carlisle for installations and dyno tunes. And of course, if you can't make it to us for a dyno tune, you can always order a mail order tune and a remote tune from our website, www.vmpperformance.com.
And for those that don't know, Shelby Fest is in Jefferson City, Missouri I think it's beginning of May.
Yep.
And then Carlisle's in Pennsylvania.
Carlisle, Pennsylvania at the beginning of June.
So if you can't make it to Florida and you've been wanting VMP to tune your car and or you want to get on our dyno, installation work, you want to get some upgrades, now's the time to get on our schedule and get booked.
And I know in terms of Shelby Fest, Friday right now from a dyno tuning schedule is already getting a little tight. We have some availability Thursday afternoon, and I think we have possibly one open spot Saturday morning. So if you want to get on the schedule to get dyno tuning done to your car while we're out at Shelby Fest, make sure you call us now. Get on that schedule.
We try to accommodate everybody as we can, but sometimes it can be difficult.
We have a finite amount of resources.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So now's the time to do it. So anyway, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt, but I want to make sure we mention that before
It's
we
all
sign
good.
out.
It's all good.
Great.
I guess
And
with that, we'll close out.
Like, subscribe, and share if you care.
And hit us up next week if you have any questions that didn't get answered today. We'll try to answer anything we can via YouTube or Facebook after the fact. But
sounds good.
Send chocolate milk.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Chocolate milk, not Yoo-hoo.
Yeah.